So, one of the things that I'm doing right now is I'm doing a deep study into the miracles that Jesus has performed. And what I'm seeing in the scriptures is there are different types of healings that Jesus does. Sometimes they are spiritual healings where the person's mind is just distraught and caught in a lot of trauma. Sometimes those healings are physical. They are literally, you had someone who's been paralyzed for a long time and they are able to walk again. Sometimes you have spiritual and physical manifestations of healing that need to be healed. And we remember there's a story where Jesus even talks, his disciples tried to cast out the demons and heal the sick of a person, and they couldn't do it. And Jesus had to come in and do it. And it said that you have to cast out with prayer and fasting. It's like a higher level of healing that needs to take place. So, the next few days, I'm going to be doing some videos on what I call the mic drops of Jesus. And it's one of my favorite things that I love. Jesus was a quiet, humble man, but when he spoke with such authority. So, one of my favorite things about Jesus is his mic drop moments. Many of us have our minds set on how things operate, yet we really don't have a clue because our hearts are hardened. The past few days, I've been reading about the miracles of healing of Jesus. We see physical healings, spiritual healings, casting out of unclean spirits, and even a moment where the unclean spirits were causing them both spiritual hardship, which results in manifesting of physical ailments. I always think about when Jesus would ask a question. He was a pretty quiet dude until it was something important. And when Jesus is asking a question, I think we better sit up and pay attention. It's like when your teacher at school would call your name as and ask you a question while you're sitting there doodling on your trapper keeper. What's being taught is important, and perhaps you should be alert and aware of the lesson. In John 5 1 through 17, we read of a man laying beside the pool of Bethsaida. The historical account describes that many blind, lame, and invalid would lie beside this pool waiting for the stirring of the water and for an angel that would heal them. The first one in the water would be the one that receives the healing. Now, this man had been invalid for 38 years. He didn't mind sitting there by the water all the time, waiting for the miracle, but was he willing to get up and live life? This is why Jesus says, no, do you want to get well? This is the question he asked this man. Do you want to get well? The man was a bit peeved at Jesus, saying, I have no one to help me into the pool when the water is stirred, and while I'm trying to get in, someone else goes down ahead of me. How many of us have made that statement in life? Essentially, this man was saying, woe is me. I sit here and wait for my healing, here by this pool, day after day, waiting on my miracle to come. But he wasn't willing to make a change within himself to make the best out of his circumstances. I have seen veterans of war with no arms or legs do more with their limitations than many of us who have full arms and legs. I have seen a person with an autoimmune diagnosis of fibromyalgia go out and clear 4 snow covered driveways while a perfectly healthy person sits back and watches. The interesting part of this man's sickness is the word invalid, which has an interesting meaning in itself, meaning not valid, untrue. And the second meaning is sickly or weak. In other words, was this man really sickly and weak, or was it simply his crutch of choice? Was it easier to sit by the pool and get healed than it was for him to simply pick up his mat and make the best of the life he was given? He had already wasted 38 years of it. And Jesus said to him, do you want to get well? This question was his mic drop moment because actually his question was the answer to the man's problems. Are you going to keep walking in your doom, despair, and agony on me? Or are you going to pick up your mat and walk? The choice is basically ours to decide in this form of sickness. Jesus even calls out the invalid later in the temple. Jesus said, later Jesus found him at the temple and said to him, "See, you are well again. Stop sinning, or something worse may happen to you. Perhaps it is time for us to pick up our mat and walk." Have a blessed day.